Welcome back, everybody, for my next round of movie reviews. Now, I've got some movie reviews that range from, like, the very violent to the very ghostly, and, like, some more teen angst, and, another really old, well, not real old, but an older movie, that was, well, rather long and interesting too. I do also want to say that if you're watching this movie or review on a playlist, I want to pull a couple of videos from another page and include those in with this playlist, so keep an eye out for that. Now, because those other two videos have a lot to do with this movie I'm going to review and the last movie I'm going to review. I'm not going to reveal what that last movie is until we get to it. Excuse me. So you need to, keep an eye out for that. This first movie I'm going to review was released in 1993, and it was written by none other than Quentin Tarantino, who is, releasing a werewolf movie now if he hasn't already released it. This movie stars Christian Slater and Patricia Arquette and is none other than True Romance. And this movie, this was kind of a breakthrough movie according to even Wikipedia for Quentin Tarantino. This movie actually is pretty interesting. Christian Slater stars in the movie as a character named Clarence Worley, who's a comic book store clerk and a film buff. And what happens is it starts off with Christian Slater going to see a Sonny Chiba triple feature at a local movie theater in Detroit for his birthday. While he's there, he meets Alabama Whitman, who's played by Patricia Arquette. Patricia Arquette actually, at the beginning of the movie, says one of my favorite lines, like, ever. It's, about, she asks Clarence why everything is just going to basically hell in a handbasket, and, why everything just seemed to just go wrong, and Clarence tells Alabama that, that's just the way it is. It's like life goes that way sometimes, but, it goes the other way too. It's a really good, it's like right at the beginning while the opening credits are still running, towards the middle. Well, what happens is after they get out of the movie, Clarence and Alabama go and have coffee and pie in a restaurant, and then they eventually end up back at Clarence's place and they get their freak on. Well, what winds up happening is afterwards, Clarence wakes up and finds Alabama's left, sort of. I mean, she's like outside, and as she says in the movie, she's going to come clean and tell him some stuff. Well, what happens is Alabama tells Clarence, hey, look, I'm a call girl. And, she starts talking about Drexel. Well, who's her pimp? Drexel is played by none other than Gary Oldman. And in the movie, Drexel shoots and kills Samuel L. Jackson's character and another man in a hotel room. And after they, go to do some, sell some drugs and stuff, because Drexel's not only a pimp, but he's a drug dealer. And, it's just like this really bad thing. Well, and it, like, Patricia Arquette's character, Alabama, tells Clarence, Christian Slater's character, about Drexel. And, kind of unnerves Clarence a little bit. And what ends up happening is Clarence goes in the bathroom, and while he's in there, Val Kilmer's character, Elvis Presley, shows up. And if you look it up on Wikipedia, this movie up on Wikipedia, it says that Val Kilmer's character actually, he's not actually in the film. He is, but he's not, like, you see, like, his arm. I mean, and, like, like this. It's like, it's like everything. I mean, he's in the movie, but it's like his arm. But you kind of, like, see him in the mirror, but it's, like, real blurry. what ends up happening is Clarence goes and kills Drexel and his right-hand man, Marty. Marty is played by Paul Bates. And, what ends up happening is Clarence goes back with, the suitcase that he steals out of there, thinking it's got Alabama's clothes in it and stuff, and it ends up being drugs. So, Clarence and Alabama get married, and they run off and see Clifford Worley, who's played by Dennis Hopper, and it's, Clarence's dad, and, Clifford helps with making sure that, nothing's gonna get traced back to Clarence. Well, what ends up happening is Clarence and Alabama run off to LA to go visit Clarence's friends and hide. Well, what happens is after they leave in Dad's house, Clifford's house, Christopher Walken's character, Vincenzo Cacotti, shows up with his men at Clifford's place, and Christopher Walken's character ends up basically killing Dennis Hopper's character after Clifford insults the life out of Vincenzo, and then they find out that Clarence and Virginia. I know a couple named Clarence and Virginia. I'm sorry. Clarence and Alabama are going to LA to meet Dick Ritchie, who's Clarence's friend and is played by Michael Rappaport. But what happens is once Clarence and Alabama get to LA and start, talking to Dick and everything, Dick introduces them to an actor who's teaching Dick's acting class, and Elliot's played by Bronson Pinchot. And, Clarence is hoping that Elliot will get the drugs sold to a film producer named Lee Donowitz, who's played by Saul Rubinek. Of course, my favorite thing is, and this is the funny part, in She-Devil, the girl that plays Olivia Honey's in this movie too. I forget the girl's name, but it's the same girl. And, they get caught. She's like, Bronson Pinchot's character's like, put this in your underwear. I'm not wearing any, and he ends up with crack all over him. It's pretty, well, it's not funny, but it's funny, in the movie. But, what happens is while they're out there, James Gandolfini of Sopranos fame's character, Virgil, shows up and beats almost to death Alabama. Almost beats Alabama to death. Let's rephrase that. What ends up happening is Alabama fights back, kills Virgil, and Alabama and Clarence barely escape before the Popos show up, the police. But another thing is, what happens is Tom Sizemore and Chris Penn, the late Chris Penn, play a couple of police detectives who end up talking to Elliot, Bronson Pinchot's character, after he gets caught with crack and everything. And they do, a deal to get that all worked out. But, of course, there's also some problems, because there's Dick's roommate, Floyd, who is doing what is now known as huffing, and Floyd's played by Brad Pitt. And I find it very ironic that Brad Pitt's in this movie with Christian Slater, because the two of them are together in Interview with a Vampire, together with Brad Pitt as the lead, and Christian Slater is one of the supporting staff. But I tell you what though, this is a really good movie. I'm not going to ruin how the movie ends, although I will tell you it's extremely violent, and it's, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and Elvis Presley. So, anyway, as a closing note, I mentioned those videos that I want to stick in with this movie review and the playlist and everything. One of the extra non-movie reviews videos I'm going to include, it's got something to do with Elvis, and that's part of the reason why I'm bringing it up now, and it's got something to do with the other movie that I want to review too. So hang on, just a moment. I want to get reviewing the rest of the movies, okay? Hang on.